Okay, I wanted to address something Brother Ryan Hicks was talking about in his video about living by faith versus formal education. And I kind of, it's difficult for me to address that because I've done both. And if I were to give advice to somebody in their late teens, early 20s, I'd need to know more about what their situation is. Uh, in my late teens, at my church, and among the people that I knew, people who went straight into living by faith actually did okay. Uh, but my family had a stronger academic background. Academic achievement was usually equated with upward mobility and upward social and economic mobility. And we, up to that point, had actually been kind of downwardly mobile because of some very bad investments with some people who should not have, shouldn't have been investing with. And I can get into that in a long tirade. But the story of my family was, more like one of those riches to rags stories. And they invested with the wrong people, is basically what happened. And so a lot of things that had been there for some earlier generations weren't there for me. And that's one of the paradigms that a lot of people deal with in the collegiate environment, is that it's expected that something's set up for the people. And if you look at people who have inherited wealth but no education, they usually don't keep on. They don't hang on to it. I mean, or they're not really good people. I'll be honest with you. I meet spoiled people who inherited a bunch of money and they think they know everything because they've got some stuff, or they've been around, done some traveling because they got free money in their life. We just don't think all that highly of people like that in our society. We don't. And so it's expected that if somebody is in line to inherit a lot of wealth, or they're going to, that the family and social connections are going to be there for him, you really want somebody like that to have an education. And I'll be honest with you, you want them to have a generally well-rounded liberal arts education. I mean, that's generally what you're looking for. And within the Jewish communities, there's a constant thing, and believe it or not, they discussed it with us in college. Is where I learned more about it after seeing it and not fully realizing what I was seeing. Within Jewish communities, there's a real situation among Jewish younger people would rebel, and all younger people rebel a little bit against the previous generation, but what happens among a lot of Jewish younger people who rebel against the older generation is they join cults. And it's been something that, if you read in the Bible, it's actually been there for quite a long time. And if somebody lives according to biblical principle, they're generally going to get ahead in life. They will. It generally is more successful than not to live by Old Testament biblical principle. If you actually apply that in your life, you're probably going to get ahead. So that's one of the reasons why people who live by the values that you would find in a Torah or an Old Testament generally will end up doing a little better in life than generations of people who don't live by those values. And because you'll tend to see a little bit more money than average in those families, you're going to find that they get targeted by aspiring demagogues of one kind or another. And one of the things that tends to happen is a lot of the younger people from those families are very frequently going to be the target of seduction by aspiring cults or new cultures or new things that somebody's trying to come up in the world, whether it's communism, whether it's the homosexual movement, whether it's a new age type of a cult or something like that. A lot of times they're going to be attracting somebody who is from a family that had previously lived by some sort of biblical or Torah principle, became successful at that. And then they, for whatever reasons, there's a lot of chinks in the armor. There's a lot of reasons for the younger generation to be critical of them. There's a lot of reasons for somebody to think there's something better out there, or there's a better way to do it, and they're going to look for answers. And if the younger person has not been educated within that culture and that system, a lot of times they're going to be ill prepared to deal with the big bad world out there. And somehow, some way, they need to become prepared to deal with the big bad world out there. And also to soften that to a degree, knowing that in life that they probably are approaching life with some advantages that other people don't have, to be a little bit liberal and tolerant in those beliefs. And that's one of the reasons for a liberal arts college education. So when we get into the Christian perspective of living by faith versus a liberal arts education, people have to realize that you still got to take care of your own. And if your own are not taken care of or have not been taken care of, then, what do you do? Here you go.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
And, so what do you do? Like, I just tossed $1 to somebody who's panhandling. Big deal, right? Waiting at this red light. Okay, hold on. So what do you do when, somebody's got to have a formal education? And in a lot of cases, it's maybe not got to come from the parents, okay? Parents are not always going to be the best teachers. There's a lot of reasons for it. And the firearms training type thing, a lot of guys want to get their wife, girlfriend into shooting. And a lot of people say that the husband and boyfriend may not be the best weapons trainer for the girlfriend or wife. Okay, sometimes it's got to be somebody who's an outside expert. And then teaching somebody about the ways of the world, sometimes you want somebody outside the home who's going to be that. But then there's also a need for a lot of mentoring in how the world works, and you really got to sort out the good advice from the bad advice on a lot of stuff, because there's definitely a lot of bad advice out there. Unfortunately, a lot of that bad advice now is in the educational system. There's a lot of stuff that gets taught in the educational system which is bad advice. It's destructive to society. It's destructive to the individuals who follow it. And there's a flip side of it, is sometimes it causes those people to become destructive. I've dealt with some people who went through some business education here in Oregon, where my education was in California. I deal with these people who went through their education here in Oregon, and find that the people here in Oregon, a lot of times, are going to be very predatory in their business practice, very deceitful. And they do things which in other types of business environments would get somebody hurt. They do. They do things which you don't get away with in California. Somebody will shoot out the front windows of your place if you do that. But yet here they do it on a regular basis. And when I was in the car business, I used to work as a car salesman for a while. I worked at dealerships where you could kind of tell the notoriety of the dealership by the number of bullet holes in the front window. So a lot of times we were very careful in a way that we would deal with people. And California laws are much more strict than Oregon laws as far as even who could become a car salesman. Here in Oregon, there's people who go straight from prison to the car lot. They go straight from prison to the car finance, believe it or not, to the finance divisions at some of these places. And it's normal. It's normal. So, but getting back to the need for education, I'm going to do another segment here. Really difficult for me to put this into 5-minute segments. I don't know how I'm going to clip and copy all of this. I don't know. But talking to some videos, and I'm not sure if the guy's going to approve this as a response video or not, but Brother Ryan Hicks had put some stuff up from a Christian perspective over whether somebody should be living by faith or go to college. And I've done both. Right now, I would say that I basically live by faith. Even though I sin from time to time and I enjoy it. I go to strip clubs, I drink alcohol, I look at porn, you want my confession, we'll have a lot of fun, okay? I maybe even indulge in violence when people really piss me off. And am I deeply ashamed of it? No. If I ever hurt somebody, it's because they got it coming, okay? So, when we look at, whether or not somebody wants to do a live by faith lifestyle, I'm kind of forced into that right now. And one of the things I learned from one of the people who taught me a lot about it, she had been a missionary for a long time, most of her life. And it was a positive and a negative to it. One, the woman felt that her lifestyle and her experiences and a lot of the things that she lived were probably, she lived a better lifestyle overall than somebody who simply was striving for wealth but not getting it, or just had gone through a normal career path. But a lot of that involved a very formalized dedication to a missionary organization and a series of missionary organizations where there were formal organizations that said, yes, she's a missionary. Yes, she runs a charitable orphanage in Africa, I think is what she was doing. And it was readily recognized. So, and of course, the way I met this lady, I was driving her to a hospital in Oklahoma, where the hospital was run by a very high-profile televangelist who had become the subject of controversy because in his ministry, he needed to raise money. He needed to pay the damn bills. And he would get on television, and every once in a while he would say something pretty controversial or do some pretty controversial prayers out loud because he had some really big bills to pay. And a lot of people were critical of him for it. They'd be critical of some of the other people because they would do some things to pay the damn bills. And so, in a sense, this guy, remember his name, Oral Roberts, he had to pay the bills. And that's what was going on with his university, his medical school, all of that stuff is, somehow, some way, somebody's got to pay the bills, okay? So if your chosen career path is to be a doctor and you just want to be a witch doctor, faith healer, hey, good luck with that, okay? But if I get sick, I want to know the person who knows which antibiotics to give me, okay? So, let's cut that where it needs to go, okay? It depends on what somebody's career path is. So, if you're listening to the voices in your head about how to heal something, hey, great, but I want a second opinion from a real doctor, okay? And Oral Roberts understood that, and he's a guy of faith, I know that. And did they incorporate faith healing with a lot of their treatments? Yeah. But you know what? It takes a lot of money to buy those EKG machines, all those scanners, all that kind of stuff. You got to raise that money somewhere. And somebody's got to be in a position to give that money, okay? So sometimes when I'm on my way home from making some money, okay, I'll throw the money in a basket somewhere. And if you want to have a little feel-good smile from somebody, yeah, great. Give $1 to a bum, just like I did over at that red light, right? But the reality is that whether you're deeply involved with the ministry or not, somebody somewhere's got to pay the bills for the people of faith and for the infrastructure that people of faith could even benefit from, okay? Oral Roberts raised and spent a lot of money, and it's his name on Oral Roberts University and the medical school and all that kind of stuff. I haven't even followed up with what happened with them. A lot of people call it controversial. But when you look at where that money got raised from, okay, there's a lot of educated people that ran a lot of businesses that had a lot of professions that donated that money. Okay, Oral Roberts did not lay every brick on top of every other brick to build that place. Oral Roberts did not administer every treatment or take every x-ray at that place. Somebody's got to do the work. Somebody's got to be qualified to do that. So, living by faith is one of those things that, a lot of people can aspire to, especially if you are actively in a ministry. And I'm going to say this, do not go and try to shame everybody out there into being a minister. You know what? If I'm not mistaken, a couple of the original apostles were tradesmen and then ministers on the side. Okay? One of the reasons I pay a lot of attention to Pastor Dowell's channel, because the guy actually knows how to work. I mean, he actually gets stuff done. And I'm not going to say that, should the Pope have to go and pound nails somewhere? No. Okay? He's obviously a holy man, okay? I don't expect the Dalai Lama to go out there and shovel snow and at his place in Tibet. But the thing is, when somebody is giving religious advice to somebody or across the board not to go to a university, not to seek an education, you need to be in a position to offer alternatives to somebody that's going to be a hell of a lot better than listen to the voices in your head and then open a Bible every once in a while and try to look for clues between the lines, okay? The world doesn't get built that way, okay? And I'm not trying to come across as the super Masonic Illuminati guy on this. I'm just trying to explain some reality to some people. The world does not get built by insane people who are going to listen to the voices in their head, okay? It works for artists to a degree, okay? It works for highly creative, artistic people. But when you look at the movie industry, the music industry, you're looking at anybody who's a celebrity, so-called, right? You're looking at the top 1 or 2% of that whole world. And I would never tell somebody who is young, who's trying to look forward at improving their life and not living hand to mouth, to reject education and then seek mediocrity. Okay, and I'll say this, there were some people who gave me that advice early on, and to a degree, for the most part, I disregarded them. And I look at it years later, and I think, yeah, my life didn't go the way I wanted it to go. But it didn't go as fucked up as it would have been if I'd listened to those people. And I don't see how, if you're in your early 20s, I don't see how you're totally going wrong with your life of spending a few years in college. If you have something else that's come into the path of your life that you think is a good thing and it's going to build up some skills and resources that are going to help you out in the next 10 years, not just to help you out personally, right? We want to like say that being Christian means not being selfish and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't have anything, you can't give anything, okay? That's just a given. If Oral Roberts is trying to raise money to build a new wing on a university or I don't know. I don't even know if he's still alive. But some other big evangelist, some guy's trying to build a new wing on a university. How much money is he going to be able to raise from vagrants? Okay? Vagrants of faith? I've met vagrants who have a lot of faith. Very, very faithful, soulful people. But it can't raise money from them. What can we accomplish with these people? What can I accomplish with an army of vagrants? The only way we're ever going to accomplish anything is if all those people decide they don't want to be vagrants anymore and build a nation or build a community. And we see that in a few places right now where, a whole lot of previously disenfranchised people are working to build community. Within building community, you develop skills, resources, and education within that community. And the only way that you're going to come up with a better alternative to the education system is to come up with a better education system. come up with something where people will spend their 3 or 4 years with you or with your community or under a series of mentoring sessions with people where somebody completes a 3 or 4 year series of mentoring with somebody within your organization, within your circle, within your movement. And they say, wow, I'm glad I didn't waste all my time in college. I spent 4 years doing this other thing with these other people, and I'm so much better off in life, and I can give so much more, and I'm so much more free because I have these resources that I can contribute. But if you don't have anything, you can't give anything. And if there's one phrase I want you to remember from this little talk, if you don't have anything, you can't give anything. And that's going to be how I start the next segment.